Negotiation has a lot of moving pieces, and if we don't pay attention to all of them, it's not very effective. With these three strategies, I was able to negotiate my offer in one of the top 10 companies in the Bay Area after I left Facebook. I was able to increase my stock compensation by 8x, that is 800%, in one of the top 10 companies in the Bay Area. Now, these strategies might sound very simple, but they're very powerful if you understand them and are able to apply them. Hello there, this is Yogi. I help people develop trust in themselves. I help people have hard and difficult conversations that lead them to unlock their potential. I help people focus on what really matters to them, focus on their purpose, so they spend time on things that are really important for them. Today, we are going to talk about a topic that comes up often in my coaching practice, and that's how to negotiate compensation. One of the big pitfalls in negotiations is when it starts. People typically come to me that, hey, I have a negotiation conversation tomorrow or in a couple of days, and can you help me? There are only limited ways I can help them at that time, because negotiation has a lot of moving pieces, and if we don't pay attention to all of them, it's not very effective. Today we are going to talk about three main pieces of negotiation. One is when negotiation starts, and that's a mindset issue. Second is why do negotiation? That's an identity question we all go through. And the third is how to do negotiations, how to approach negotiations in a win-win way. Before we get into any of that, I want to have a quick word about tactics in negotiation. Tactics are very helpful. How to do wordsmithing, how to change the tonality of your voice, how to use facial expressions and things like that. But those things are actually the secondary effect. The first effect is who you are being and what's really going on inside of you. The bottom layer is who you are being inside of you, and the outer layer is who you are showing up to the world. It might look good and edible, but it doesn't make it actual good. So what we want to work on is actually who you are being and who you are showing up from the inside. And of course, if you're interested, I'm happy to talk about more tactics also, how to wordsmith, how to work with facial expressions, and how to work with tonality of your language, but those are the secondary effects. Please reach out to me if you want help with those. So let's get right in. The first thing is mindset. Negotiation starts with the first conversation you are having with the company, with the recruiter, with the hiring manager. Many people think negotiation starts once they get the offer, but that's a big misconception. And this is where you want to use every conversation to get to know about the company, get to know about how you can help them, get to know how this will lead to a powerful negotiation in the future. Many companies tend to ask your compensation, your expectations in the very beginning. And if you start to open up really in the beginning, it's not going to be very helpful. Your negotiation will be very limited at the very end. So you want to be careful from the get-go, from the very first conversation. A lot of times people are trying to impress the interviewer, people are trying to impress the company, and a minimum amount of impressing is needed. But what we really want to work on is preparing ourselves to pitch ourselves in the future when the offer comes through and we are negotiating the terms and conditions of the offer. And we want to use every conversation with the company, with the recruiter, with the other co-workers, with the colleagues, with the hiring manager, about how to learn about the company, how to place ourselves in the right spotlight, how to sell ourselves, how to pitch ourselves when the time comes for negotiation. So this is a mindset issue. When the negotiation starts is the first point of contact with the potential employer. The second thing about negotiation is why do it? If you don't have the right mindset, if we don't have the right reason for why to do negotiation, we will fall off the rails very quickly. There's a book called Difficult Conversations, which talks about most of the difficult conversations we have, they end up becoming identity conversations in our own head. And the three identity questions we always ask are, number one, am I competent? Number two, am I loved? And number three, am I a good person? And these questions might not look very relevant to negotiations, but all hard conversations boil down to asking these identity questions. For example, sometimes a recruiter or a hiring manager's comment about you being very unreasonable in negotiation conversations might trigger an identity question about, am I being greedy here? And if that conversation about identity takes over, then you won't be able to negotiate powerfully. And of course, this is an important question to answer for yourself. Am I being greedy? And we want to resolve that question in our own head and our own heart. Or we might be vulnerable not knowing the deep answer to that. Maybe we are being greedy. Maybe we are not being greedy, but we don't know yet. If we try to argue that we are not being greedy and try to prove to people in our head that we are not being greedy, then our behavior and body language will show cognitive dissonance and we will not be able to negotiate. So we want to resolve our identity questions. Am I competent? Am I a good person? And am I loved? Once we have a deep understanding of those questions, then we can negotiate without fear of existential identity. And the third mindset in negotiations in how to do negotiation, and the only negotiation that ends up being mutually beneficial, is a win-win negotiation. There's a book called Never Split the Difference, where an ex-FBI negotiator for kidnapping unit talks about how when he was negotiating with people who kidnapped citizens or holding them hostage during robberies, even with them, he would try to come up with win-win solutions because the other side is still a person and they have the needs. He explains how even in those situations, he's not playing power games. He's trying to come up with situations that will be helpful for himself, for his side, as well as the other side. And this idea is even more helpful when we are talking to hiring manager, recruiter, because you want to come up with a win-win solution. A lot of times we start to look for what can I get in the negotiation, and that's where we lose track. We want to find a solution. What can I get? How can I help the other party get a good deal? And if you look for a win situation only for you, it's going to be a very fragile negotiation and a very fragile situation. There is a broader understanding of win-win also called win-win-win, where you're looking for a win for yourself, win for the other side, and also win for the environment, either the organization or the company or the world and life at large. And when you're able to involve all three dimensions of the win-win-win, that's when you can really negotiate and other people can help you in negotiation. It can be collaborative. And this point also goes to the first point we talk about mindset. The negotiations begin with the very first conversation, and you want to start looking for the issue or the problem the organization is facing so you can see how you can help them, how you can make them hiring you as a win situation for them. And once you are able to showcase your value for the organization and the company, they're able to compensate you a lot more accordingly. And there you have it. These are the three main strategies I've used in my own negotiation and helping many of my clients negotiate. With these three strategies, I was able to negotiate my offer in one of the top 10 companies in the Bay Area after I left Facebook. I was able to increase my stock compensation by 8x, that is 800%, in one of the top 10 companies in the Bay Area. Now, these strategies might sound very simple, but they're very powerful if you understand them and are able to apply them. A lot of times, if we just think in our head, they seem very simple, but if you're able to apply them from a deeply emotional understanding, they will lead to a powerful negotiation for you. I would love to hear from you what you have learned about negotiation from your experiences and any challenges you are facing, and if any of those strategies might be helpful for you. If there is any way I can help you, please reach out and I'm happy to have a deeper conversation about this with you. Thank you.